once you get below the banner of digital and you get down to the specifics of the localization and the cultural norms, they're very different.
Like you, we're curious too. Opinion X, captivating curiosity.
We recently spoke to the Group COO of Standard Chartered, David Whiting, and he explained how the banking powerhouse with 900 branches around the world utilises digital to provide for different customers in each of their markets.
So I think similarities are pretty much that the world is becoming more and more focused on digital interactions and composite interactions, which probably start with digital but then get complemented with other experiences around it. But globally, I think everyone's been pushing to digitize across industries. Some industries more aggressively than others. But now I think post COVID, we'll see that profound and fundamental digitization is likely to accelerate. Consumers and customers will want to probably have their initial interactions to be digital and remote, and then advance from there. So it's almost becomes it no longer becomes a kind of a nice to have or an option. It becomes the starting point, and then you move from there. So that's probably the common thing around the world. What I would say is each of those experiences is very, very different.
It's no secret that Standard Chartered's digital banking platform is a successful service, receiving numerous awards over the years across their entire global network. But how has this integration of digital and technology catalysed a more personalised experience for consumers?
Well, look, I think digitized experiences are in every facet, every field are required to be personalized. I just, I don't know of any good experience that I have, financial services or otherwise, that it hasn't come with a high level of personalization. So I don't think of it as differentiated. I just think of it as those are the table stakes. That's the base product that you have to put out there to be able to have an ability to personalize an experience so that each individual is enjoying and experiencing the things that are relevant to them in the context of what they're trying to do. So and I think that's one of the advantages of going with committing your business to a much more digital-centric proposition, is that the technology and the architectures that exist today allow that personalization to come at a significantly lower cost than any other option.
The open banking conversation is undeniably a hot topic in the global banking world. But how is Standard Chartered managing the impacts of open banking, or the increasing question about data rights in the banking space?
If you actually look at what's happening, it's less about open banking and more about, I think, an emerging conversation around data rights. And so, as a consumer, one of the asymmetrical issues that we have at the moment is that I don't have a really good handle on how Google or Facebook or any other big digital proposition is using my data. And when I give all my information to a bank, in the old regime, it kind of was the bank's data rather than my data. And so what's happening with open banking and GDPR and a bunch of other things is it's really it's an early stage regulatory attempt to address that asymmetric relationship between the consumer and the enterprise with regards to the consumer's data. And by virtue of saying, look, you're providing a regulation that allows me to store my information in one organization, but consent to that information being readily used by another organization, entirely under the premise that I will then be able to get better services that meet my needs, both from a proposition and feature perspective, but also from a pricing perspective and an availability perspective. I think it's just very early days, and I think what we'll see over the next 5 to 10 years is a shift in the community view on whose data it is and what can be done with that data. And the more open you make that data, then the more likely I am as a consumer to receive offers and services that are much, much more relevant to my needs. And I think that's kind of where we'll get to.
As working from home and Zoom calls have become the new norm, businesses have had to adapt to these unprecedented conditions. But how has COVID-19 transformed the banking space and sparked discussions about the global design of work?
Well, look, I think one of the interesting things that's happened is the level at which we've been able to pivot our organization globally to be able to work from home. As we rushed into lockdown back at the end of February and early March, and each part of our network went at slightly different times. We were locked down in China around Chinese New Year, and then other locations at different times. We reached extremely high percentage of our workforce working from home, limited people coming into the office. We've been able to maintain our service and proposition to our customers, so that's been really impressive from our teams across the world. But what it does present now is an opportunity for us to think about the design of work, the design of our products and services, how we think to automate and digitize, and really question, what's the configuration that we want to work in the future. Now that we actually have the optionality to potentially have certain jobs and job families almost exclusively work from home rather than come into the office. There's a whole range of talent that suddenly becomes accessible to us, and we can put together a proposition that might be compelling to them. So just from a diversity and an inclusion perspective, I think it's changed our narrative quite substantially, and it's exciting. It still presents challenges though going forward. So we are social creatures, and the office is as much a function that a place where we function to work is also a place where we function to socialize. And creating those social connections is an important part of any organization. So again, I think we're going to have to be quite thoughtful around how we establish, maintain, enhance those sorts of social connections in the future. That's not to say that we can't. It's just going to have to be more deliberate and more done by design rather than just by organic process. I think also what we've learned through this process is we're a pretty resilient business, that we're able to operate without massive impacts to our things. We've have some skills and knowledge in that area, and I think in a number of cases we've been working with our clients to help them be more resilient and giving them some ideas and suggestions and helping them in their digitization journey. And I think that's really exciting, that we're moving beyond just we have the possibility of moving beyond just providing financial products and services and start providing network products and services that allow them to think about their own business resilience and design for the future. And I think that's an exciting proposition.